Hey guys, it's Malls. Thanks so much for listening to Plz Advise. Just a quick message before the show. Don't forget to subscribe in iTunes. It's super helpful for us and super helpful for you. You can also call 323-450-7408 to get your calls on the show. Again, 323-450-7408. Or email askplzadvise@gmail.com with your voice notes or emails. Thanks so much. Hey guys, it's episode 168 of Plz Advise. Today it's just Christina and I, and we want to catch up with you. Just like about
we want to catch up with each other and with you.
Yeah, we want to catch up with each other, with you via us catching up with ourselves together. Is that right?
I think that's right.
So Christina, what's going on with you? What's new?
I'm trying to think because I went into a little bit over the last couple of recordings, but like I was in New York for a little bit to see my family.
Yep.
I have my new niece and my dad because he's been having some health stuff going on. So I just wanted to make sure, you know.
I think that's relatable for a lot of our audience. Is like a parent with a health issue, which is something that, like, thankfully. By the way, today's Father's Day.
Yeah, I talked to him today.
Happy Father's Day to Willie. I should text my stepdad
and my brother.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is he having a good Father's Day?
I think so.
It's double Father's Day for him too. Is this the first one with the new baby?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
It's both shocking and not shocking that your second niece, it's her first Father's Day. Doesn't it feel like she's been around for a year already?
I mean, it's like when you're pregnant, it kind of like you're, you know, the life, I don't know. It's like you're cognizant that this thing exists. And then,
it feels like she's been around for a long longer than she has.
She was highly anticipated by the time she arrived.
Exactly. So, with your dad being sick and everything, with you being far away, that's like I think probably an interesting conundrum for a lot of our listeners. What's that been like for you?
You know, it's been a little bit hard, and it's hard not to feel guilty.
Of course.
It's hard not to feel guilty that you're not taking on your fair share of the work that's involved with having a sick relative. It's also, you feel guilty for living such a carefree life.
I mean, I think that a lot of people feel guilty for not being able to go out for Sunday dinner.
Yeah.
Let alone some of the bigger stuff in life. And, like, it's something that your family... The good thing is that you're cognizant of it. Because, like...
Yeah.
A lot of people, when you're far away from something, it's hard to imagine being close to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And I think that... It's sometimes I find myself having a hard time not remembering that everyone at home has a life, but like picturing them in their everyday life.
Yeah, and like you're like, well, they didn't answer my call. What could they possibly be doing at this moment? Like,
right? But
it's like they're juggling a lot of things. You have no idea what their life is like sometimes. And the other thing that's really difficult was that, like, to see how much when I was there to see how much it kind of wore on them.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I was here, it would be a lot easier for them.
Right. You think so?
Yes. Just in terms of, like, there's another hand to help watch him, and, like, less steps you have to think about, and involving other people, and seeing who's free, and also just, like, him. Like, he and I have a relationship that's, like, he really, really loves me, obviously, because I'm his daughter. But there's something, like, he listens to me when I tell him to take his medicine. Like, I lift his spirits when I see him. That's why I go, because I know it means so much to him.
Yeah. I think there's also a guilt that comes along with being very sick.
Yeah.
Where he's like, even just this small load you were able to lighten this week.
Yeah.
Was huge for us.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like, you know, you can either wind up maybe feeling resented or feeling guilty if you're the sick party. And I think it's really difficult for the people who are actually, like, actively taking care of someone not to feel like, for lack of a better word, a little put out at a certain point.
Yeah, it's also just like, it's hard. And this happens when you're dealing with people with mental health issues too.
Right.
It's hard when you're not the person dealing with it. You try to have the most empathy you can, because you can't even imagine what, like for example, living with chronic pain every day is like.
Yeah.
And you know that person well enough to know that they are really trying their hardest to get better.
Yeah.
But it's still, they're not progressing, and it's not their fault, but there's a little bit of frustration you feel, you know, for the situation not changing. And And that's not to say, like, I feel guilty for having that feeling or whatever. And I'm not even knowing, I don't know what I'm trying to process right now. But they both worked hard for me to be able to have the life that I do have.
It's true. Yeah.
And, like, if I left that, it would be for nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Your parents are wonderful people. And, like, when Chris Medina came here, he said something which is like, the person you should be worried about is your mom. And I think that
oh yeah, I checked in on her a lot that week.
Yeah. And I think that like that's also why it's important to like pay like credence to what she said, because I think she's the one that is kind of like living for everyone to be okay right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is the right thing for you to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, because it's so difficult. And I thankfully, like the part of my life where I was really worried about people's health, it was over by the time I was 20 with my grandparents. And my mom is so young, I'm not really worried about her in that way. But I know that so many of our listeners are in that space, because we get calls from them with their sick parents or their parents who have recently passed. And like that's part of what I wanted to do today's episode, is just kind of let you know like where we're at, I guess, in our lives as people who host this podcast giving advice, because obviously a big part of Plz Advise is that we are not any more qualified than any of you to give advice, which is why we've had guests on the show and reached out to tons of different types of people. It's because we are also people who are in the middle of a lot of stuff right now, whether it's like at times over the years, job transitions, relationships, parent stuff, different stages of our friendships or whatever, moving, all sorts of stuff. We've all been in, the two of us have been in transition. And I think it's important for our audience to kind of know who we are right now, because, the last thing I want when someone calls is to be like, you guys were dismissive, or you were mean, or, maybe you started listening at the beginning and you've seen some changes in us, but we're not really transparent about it.
Yeah.
And, I hope this episode can kind of like offer that a little bit to people, just some perspective on where we're at in our lives, because you guys share so much with us. That's the other big thing too, is you're very, very intimate with us. And like, we can't always say that we do that. 100% ourselves, especially Christina.
Yeah. I'm trying to be better about it this year.
Here's the thing. You are good at it. I've known how to reflexively tell 70% of the truth of whatever I'm talking about for years.
Right,
and like,
right.
So like, there's something, I'll say something, it'll sound like a definitive sentence, but like, it's not the whole truth or the whole reality of the situation.
Yeah. And I recently realized that like, I had an experience fairly recently. I've been having a lot of experiences fairly recently.
Good.
That was like, when you emotionally unload on someone just because like you click right away.
Yeah.
Right? And you realize like that person's totally accepting and it's not shocking, and you tell them things that like maybe some of your like casual friends don't know, some of your good friends don't know.
Right.
And it just like unfurls over a night and you connect with that person, and it's nothing like you get, and it's cathartic to get all that stuff out, right?
Right.
You realize that like, yes, these things are very personal.
Right.
But it's cathartic to get a lot of that stuff out, because a lot of good stuff comes in.
Yes.
And so it's like, it's vulnerable and it feels awful, right? Because you're like, oh my God, what is this person going to think of me the next day? Like, that I'm like barely a functioning human being.
No.
But you need to get that stuff out, because then it just like opens you up and like opens room for goodness. And that's what I'm starting to realize. And so it's like being more transparent about stuff really lets that stuff, it might go wrong. I might trust the wrong person, and that's going to happen. But
I will see that, like,
I think it'll yield more rewarding and deeper relationships for the long run.
I always feel like I'm on the other side of that a lot. Like, I'm the person that people Like, I sit down with someone and all of a sudden, like, I'm 12 years deep in their life, like, and they're telling me everything.
That's usually me, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like something like, it was mutual this time, and there was something in that mutual expression that also just like...
was great.
Yeah.
And I will say that, like, as the person that will sometimes wake up on the other end of it and be like, wow, I can't believe they told me all that last night. It's never a big deal. Like, I've never, like, judged someone for something they've said like that. And I think it's because when someone comes to you and they bare their soul and they're honest, like, I think that it happens to me a lot because people are like, oh, well, she's so open. I'll just tell her whatever. She can hear it. And I'll be honest with you, like, it's only in those moments where people are expressive with me that I feel normal.
Yeah.
Because I walk through life being like, oh my God, I'm so, like, overly honest and, like, such an open wound. And then I hear other people talk and I'm like, first of all, I thought I had problems. Secondly, like, it's so nice that person felt comfortable doing that. So I think it's actually, like, as much as, like, you're thinking about the vulnerability of opening up to someone, and that's definitely a part of it. I think it's important to remember how much people appreciate being opened up to.
Yeah.
It's like as high as a compliment.
That's the thing I worry about, is that they don't. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't speak for everyone. I've learned that by now. But, like, you know, no. I mean, I think that when you are in a place, especially you're so guarded. When you're in that place, like, as long as it's not, like, drunken sobbing, like, I can't imagine, you know what I mean?
It
like,
wasn't, yeah.
That's a mess. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've all been there, too, where someone's like, whoa, and you're like, oh, my God. Like, and I think even in those times, you're just like, I hope that person gets the therapy they need. You know what I mean? Or that, like, they drink less or that they don't go out right now. But as long as it's not that, and even in that, I don't think there's a lot of judgment. I think that people do really appreciate it. It's like kind of a universal thing. I mean, have people ever opened up to you and you're like, you know?
Like, I wish they hadn't. Have you ever had that?
I've had things where people have shared things about other people with me that I'm like, I would pay $1 million.
Weird sex things?
No, like, just like, oh, so-and-so's, you know, girlfriend is really shitty and they cheated here, and here. And I'm like, well, I love so-and-so and I fucking love their girlfriend. Like, I don't need to hear that.
When I was in my 20s, one of my friend's moms was talking to me about, like, the decline in her marriage, and she was like, we'd only have morning sex. And I'd be like, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Yeah, I've had that. I mean, well, you guys always tease me because I'm, like, so shy about sex, but, like, I'm definitely the last person. Like, when someone pulls over the car to drop you off for the night or something, and, like, you're just sitting in their car because you're like, I'm not going to just get out and, like, be like, peace, thanks for the ride. And they just start, like, telling you, like, my boyfriend doesn't fuck me right, and, like, all this shit. And you're just like, first of all, why me? Like, why was I chosen for this gift? Secondly, like, that's some shit. Like, my mom always used to say, like, the truth comes out in the car. And it really does. Like, that's where you have 90% of your, like, real eye-opening conversations.
yeah.
And, yeah, that can be really awkward, I feel like, when someone gets into the sex stuff. For me, anyway. But apparently,
like, even with your friends, or, well, if it's like somebody's mom, like,
oh no, like,
no,
that's exactly
I mean, like, my
nightmare.
peers,
That's
you know,
exactly
like, you're not gonna have a Sex in the City. Not that I would have a Sex in the City style brunch, but, like,
I actually was thinking of that last night because, like, I was reading, like, this, like, little paragraph about feminism or something, and it was
just one paragraph.
Just I'm reading I'm at home on a Friday, just reading or Saturday, reading a little paragraph about feminism. By the way, we're recording this on a Sunday, as we said. Normally we record on Saturdays, but Christina and I are going to do this mini ep and then another ep solo today. Yeah, and it was like, girls can do whatever they want. Women can be, just as like naughty, talking about naughty bedroom stuff with their girlfriends as guys do with theirs. And I was sitting there being like, please don't. Like, male or female, please just leave me alone. Like, I don't need to know about, and it sucks because
Which surprises me because sometimes you can be very candid with me about your sex life.
I know, and I don't actually really mind it. I don't know. I think it's so, that's where vulnerability gets too real for me. And I also like actively try not to, well, I don't even try. I just actively do not ever think about my friends having sex.
I don't think about my friends having sex either.
I know, but like, then how is everyone supposed to talk about it without ever thinking about it?
Like picturing it? Is that where you get hung up? Is that you picture it as they're talking about it?
See, this is I wonder if it's because if my imagination is just like, that's how I process information, is I try and picture it, which is probably a very childlike way of understanding the world.
I finally understand what's wrong. No, don't picture it. Just listen.
I don't know how to listen and not picture it. Like, close your eyes. Okay, you're standing in the woods. You see, like a meditation tape, for example, where they're like, okay, you see a golden light. Like, that's how I literally, like, absorb information. Like, I didn't know that wasn't normal. Like, what do? You just space out? I mean, like, what is your brain doing when a person's talking?
I don't know. I don't space out. I'm listening to what they're saying. And
right.
Like, okay, so, like, why is the sex with this woman's boyfriend not good? Like,
but like when someone says words to you, do you picture the physical letters in your head, or do you picture images of the description?
Maybe this is because I'm an auditory learner.
Maybe.
And I can just like listen and I'm looking at I'm looking at you right now talking to me. I'm not picturing you. Like, what are you picturing when I'm talking to you right now?
Well, we're talking about the moment right now. So
yeah, but are you looking at me and observing me, and like your mind isn't picturing anything else right now? No, but when you were telling me
a story about like your dad, for example, like I could see you sorting out pills in my head.
Okay.
And I could see your dad like being sick on the couch, and then I could see you having a conversation with your mom where it came up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So like that's where my mind moves in stories like that.
Right.
But like I thought everyone did that, which is so fucking trippy.
Maybe I'm different. Maybe I'm the one that's like weird.
I don't know. I mean, maybe we're just two different styles of learning or something. Yeah. But like it's always interesting because I also don't consider myself, probably also large in part due to my eyesight being so bad. I don't really I'm not a visual person. Do you know what I mean? I imagine my brain works somewhat like a blind person.
Okay.
If a blind person had... No.
You don't have, like, synesthesia, do you?
What's that?
It's like you can see colors? Like, certain sounds?
No. Like, I don't
hear... Or, like, shapes and
shit?
I
don't hear red. Do you know what I mean? No, I don't know.
And I'm probably, like, miscategorizing synesthesia, so I apologize in advance.
Yeah, we don't want to be ableist here on Plz Advise.
Why are you laughing about that?
Because if you could taste the color green, that's dope. That's not a handicap. I mean, it is, I'm sure, probably hell for certain people to live with, because I can't imagine, like, wanting to eat this blue microphone. But, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's funny that's how I think about pictures, like, while you're talking, and that you can turn that part of your brain off.
Yeah. Well, now that we got to the bottom of that, I have a question.
What?
What's been going on with you?
In what way?
I don't know. Just...
I mean, I think I'm working a lot.
Okay.
But I'm also sleeping a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I basically don't move from my bed unless I'm going to, like, a meeting or Starbucks or, like, whatever. I mean, I sit in my office, too. I don't really move from the top floor of my house. Okay. Like, Logan's living downstairs right now, which is great. But I also find myself using the downstairs a lot less. And I would say the plus side of this is that there was like 3 months of this year where I literally did not leave my bed unless it was for a meeting. Mm. Like, one thing I have noticed, which is like going to be, for anyone who hate listens to this podcast, is certainly going to be like a fodder for them. But like, I was better about like getting up and getting my hair done and doing stuff like that a while ago. Like, I was up at least once a week, like out getting a blow dry or doing something that was like more integrated human activity. And then like having a blow dry would be like, well, I should go out and see a friend because I just did my hair. Which, like, I think that's how, you know, people mock, like, you know, self-care isn't about, like, going to get a manicure, okay?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you know what? For some people, if that's the dividing force to get out and enjoy human behavior, maybe that is fucking self-care. And, like, you know, self-care is a lot of different things, but I think that that can be a part of it. And for me, I think that, like, general upkeep and taking care of myself really helps my self-esteem and really makes me want to go out and like try that human interaction thing again, which I used to love so much and used to be such like a huge part of my identity, not being around anyone, but being around my friends, you know. And I just find myself reaching out less. And, you know, I do always think it's weird, and this is just maybe me, but like, I think it's weird when people get a little hostile or take it personally when you're not around as much. Like, I've noticed, you know, there have been friends that like I'm just always on text with. Like, we have a running text. We check in once a day. You know, this boy problem, where's that? This thing, where's that? How is this thing going with work? And sometimes I like retreat from that just because I don't really have anything to say. And it's not because I don't care about my friend. I just am like, I don't have a lot to offer right now. Or I don't feel the feeling picking up my phone that I normally do, which is like excitement and curiosity and like a little bit of dopamine from enjoying that friendship interaction. Like, I don't feel that right now. And I notice like certain people sort of pull away from me in a way that I feel has a little bit more permanence and weight to it than it should. Do you know what I mean? And it's not about being... I just wish that like, I sometimes feel like I carry a guilt with me about being maybe a bad friend or a bad person in human relationships, when on the other hand, when the people in my life have periods of time where they sort of retreat, I don't take it that way. I don't take it very personally. I just call someone else, you know, if I want to go out. And then but it's not like, oh, I'm going to go out with Ed because Christina hasn't picked up her phone. It's like, well, Christina's not really in a going out place right now, so I'll call Ed. You know, that's how I view it. But I think some people are like, oh, Molly ghosted. So because she ghosted, I have to go find new friends. And when Molly comes back around, we have to have a conversation about where she went. And it's like, if you know me, you know where I went is my bed. Like,
yeah, like I think you've been,
you know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, I think you've been transparent. I mean, I've been there with you over the last few years, so I know,
right?
I know you well enough to know when something's going on with you, or when you're just not feeling it. Yeah,
I don't feel like bottomed out right now the way that I have. Like, before I got on my most like recent medication, like there was a really fucking stalled period of time for me. Like, really stalled. And I just, like, I wasn't capable of anything. And, you know, that's, like, being fully, you know, I was working, but, like, that was all I did. And I feel like, as opposed to previous, like, bouts of depression or whatever you want to call this, like, periods of downtime, I don't feel like as hopeless as I have, and I think that's nice to be able to kind of experience, you know, not even depression, just like a damp soul, and like it's nice to experience that and not have it be like a rock bottom situation, you know?
Yeah.
I just feel like, okay, Like, I'm in a staying home place, and that's okay. And maybe in 3 months, I'll be on the other side of that. And, like, that sucks. I missed out on the beach all summer or whatever. But, you know, I'll be okay in the fall. Or, like, I'll be okay in August. You know, I just got to give it some time. And, you know, I'm writing a new thing, which I'm really excited about. And I think has a lot of possibility. I mean, I think that's what everyone hopes whenever they do something. But I enjoy it, which is awesome. And, you know, working on the podcast and Lifetime is, you know, I forgot as much as I even like cop to it. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that right now. And like being in season for that, it's hard to explain to people. Like, you know, something always has to give, like when you take on a new project. And it's a little bit hard to explain to people that, like, my goal is to just fulfill my obligation to not just my listeners and, like, Patreon supporters or whatever, but Lifetime. You know, I want to make sure that I keep them on board and that I get the most out of them that I can by showing up. Because it's a corporation. It's not the way that, you know, it's not the way that it is when I'm doing Emotionally Broken Psychos and I miss an episode here or there.
Yeah.
Like, this is a much more,
you have to deliver.
I have to deliver. And I don't know why. I think it's almost like sad that I view it that way because I don't know why I should respect a company that's barely fucking paying me to do anything over, let's say, you know, the loyal listeners who show up every single week to these shows.
It can be a little weird to make your creative abilities financially accountable.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I mean, well, that's like my whole job.
Right. But that's the hard part about being a creative.
Right.
It's like you're kind of feel like you're at the mercy of this spirit inside you, or that like can seem beyond reach sometimes.
Right.
But you have to deliver because you have to pay bills. So.
And either way, you're burning your name. Like, right? So if I'm less consistent with Emotionally Broken Psychos right now, that because I want to make sure that I keep my quote-unquote good name over at the Lifetime Movie Club, then I'm upsetting a fuck ton of people who donate to that Patreon. And, like, that's also why I backload that with so much extra content. It's, like, been a great way to kind of build that whole thing out because there's so many other podcasts you can listen to if you know, don't listen to mine, but, or if I'm not there. But either way, I mean, it's just thinking about it, I'm disappointing someone either way. Like, and I don't know why I value my reputation with the Lifetime Movie Club, which is essentially non-existent. But I guess I just don't want to make any enemies in that end of business right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess it holds a little bit more weight. And like, I probably am thinking too much of the forgiveness of our listeners when I don't show up to a Patreon thing. And I'm thinking more about just like, the last thing I need is to like create another debacle for myself with a network or an entertainment company or, you know, this head of advertising at this thing. Like, I don't need to create that in my life. And in a weird way, that's backwards because I value my relationships with the people that are individuals that work hard and donate to the Patreon more than ultimately I should with anyone.
Yeah.
Because those are real. That's what Lifetime is trying to get. Like, I'm giving someone me so that they can have their own people versus looking after the people I do have.
Yeah.
Fuck. So I'm not dating. If that's what you're asking. No, I know. I'm not dating.
That's
I asked
fine.
out my Lyft driver.
Okay, how did you do that? How'd it go? What was the...
I went out with him.
Was it like a Nissan... Wait. You went out with your Lyft driver?
Yeah.
Like, he picked you up to drive you to a restaurant that you requested? And then you were like, hey, what are you doing?
No. I, like, messaged him through the app. When I got inside, I was like, neither one of us wanted that conversation to end. And it was, like, kind of weird. Because I was like, okay, thank you. And I was like, is he going to ask me out? And I was like, he can't ask me out. Like, that's probably, like, against the rules for him to do that. And it's, like, also super fucking creepy. And I do know because I had a very loose lipped Uber driver at one point who was like, yeah, like the second day of training, I asked, like, are we allowed to fuck the customers? It was like this girl that she's like this raspy voice girl dropping us off.
Oh, God. It's, yeah.
Yeah, like Memorial Day weekend somewhere. I think it was like the Red Lion. And she was like, I asked the first day, like, can I fuck the customers? And she's like, and my manager said, yeah, like as long as it's consensual or something. It was really
I'm sorry, we shouldn't be, I don't know if we should be laughing about this. But
no, I mean, if she wants to, I think it's funny that first of all she asked. I love that it was a girl that asked. If it was a guy that asked, totally different story.
Okay, so you asked him out, right? Or what happened? You kind of like left the story there.
So I left, and I was like, okay, well, I don't think he's allowed to ask me out. I think that like if I make the first move, that's okay. So. You know how, like, once you, like, go through your ride or whatever, I, like, tipped him, and then, like, it came up my ride history, and I messaged him, and I was just like, hey, I was like, I don't know if this is weird. I was like, this is Molly, like, I was your last ride, or whatever. Because he's, like, a musician, and, like, he's, like, a touring musician, and, like, he's, like, I'm just, like, he's, like, no, I just am, like, off touring now, and I don't know what to do, and he's, like, I thought this would be, like, kind of a fun, which, by the way, I never know if I believe anyone who says that, when they're like, I don't know, I just thought it'd be fun. I'm like, well, part of you really needed the money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like... Let's be real. Like, you know, Bill Gates isn't sitting around being like, how do I fill the hours? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of ways to fill the hours. Like, go to a hot yoga class, go see Ocean's 8. Like, I don't know.
I saw Ocean's 8. I don't know how I feel about it.
Really?
I wanted it to be better, but I was happy at the same time.
I mean, it's a tall order. Like, that legacy is pretty big. I love the Ocean's movies, though. Like,
also, the sexual tension between so many of the women and each other was palpable.
Do you think that was directed or real?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
A little bit of both.
Do you think that was pandering a little bit?
I wish they had pandered more.
Okay. You wish it had been more overt?
What's going on with Cate Blanchett and Sandra Bullock's character? What is
but
that?
Like, okay, was it like Rizzoli and Isles for all?
Oh my God, I love Rizzoli and Isles.
I'm saying, like, is it Rizzoli and Isles where it is essentially like a show about two lesbians fighting crime, like for lack of better, or is it?
It's like a Rizzoli and Isles light. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I'm telling you, plenty of people get off on Rizzoli and Isles. I bet if you went to Tumblr, there'd be a lot of like Ocean 8's fanfic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's fanfic for Cate Blanchett alone.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I asked my Lyft driver out, and you know me, like sometimes I just am like, I don't have like insane expectations.
So you're telling me this? I'm not picturing any of it.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
I'm picturing it.
Okay.
And I was picturing Ocean's 8 too when you were talking about
sensual tension.
I just am like, what is that? Like a smoldering look between Rihanna and Mindy Kaling? Like, what's happening there?
Sandra Bullock literally feeds Cate Blanchett, and it's like one of the most sensual moments.
Ew.
Did you not pick up on that?
I didn't see it. I just hate feeding. I hate feeding. Like, I really hate it. Like, when someone's like, babe, give me a bite. I'm like, ew. I hate it. I don't know why. I think it's so gross to watch an adult. First of all, I think it's gross to watch anyone put anything in their mouth. But, like, it's really gross to watch an adult spoon food into another adult's mouth. Like, a baby, it's fine. Because, like, they don't have motor skills. But feeding is really gross. They did it on Southern Charm this week. Like, this woman wanted a bite of food. She's like, Thomas, can I have a bite? And I just was like, oh, like, I wanted to vomit. It was so gross. Like, watching a grown-ass woman need help with a bite of food.
Okay, so you asked Sorry. Ugh.
I asked him my Lyft driver.
Yes.
And he got back to me like the next day. And he was like, hey, he's like, you know, thanks for, let's say his name's like Joey. He's like, hey, it's Joey. Like, thanks for, you know, hitting me up yesterday. Yeah, I would love to take you out and discuss like lesser known Massachusetts music venues. Cause like that's what we had been talking about that night. Well, you know, this is who I am. Yeah, like we met up.
I'm glad that you found someone for that.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you.
We met up and we went out and we like got some drinks and then like he was like, he's like, let's get some food. And like he started to list like all these like hipster spaces and I realized what he was doing, which is he was like trying to pick kind of like a cool place to go when we both were like, we're hungry.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I looked at him and I was like, do you want to just go to Buffalo Wild Wings? And he was like, you want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings? I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, let's go to Buffalo Wild Wings. He was all like amped on it. I was like, oh, that makes me, I mean, like good. Like good on men for knowing that you don't just take some girl to Buffalo Wild Wings without like her suggesting it first.
Yeah.
Not on the first date. But it made me feel sad that he had spent like an hour and a half talking to me and still thought that I needed like an artisanal pizza to like talk to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He
like
thinks you're a fancy lady.
Like I would be like, would you see like by now, like I'm down as fuck and like I will absolutely like I told him before I left, I said I'm wearing a hoodie on this date. So like don't come too dressed up.
Does he know you own this house?
I don't think we got into it.
Okay.
I don't think we got into it.
Okay.
But that said, because I own a house, I should probably be going to Buffalo Wild Wings and not someplace with an artisanal pizza.
I agree, but I think like if he knew that, maybe he thought you were like
fancy.
Yeah,
yeah.
So that he has to give you an
Joke's
artisanal
on
pizza.
But yeah, then like, I think it got to that point where like, you know, when a date is just like, we'd make better friends than anything.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I think we got to the point where we both were like, well, fuck it. Let's just get drunk.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? And we were both like, kind of like, I had like 3 vodka sodas. And then I was just like, okay, I'm going to go home. And it like wasn't a big deal. And like, I will say, guys out there listening, men or women really, but if you play the dominant role in a relationship of any kind, you fucking make sure your person gets into an Uber before you leave. Like the last guy I dated, I realized like the little mini relationship I had that led to his small fucking breakdown in a Chicago Airbnb. Always a great place to have something blow up in your face. Seriously. It's a great place to take a pie in the face. But like I realize now looking back, he never opened a door for me. Some people would say that's not a big deal. I'm used to that. Like any guy I've dated that's like worth his salt, or even most of them who aren't worth their salt, most guys I've dated know that I'm the kind of girl that like, go open the fucking door for me. Like, why wouldn't you? If you can, why wouldn't you? And I look back on our first date, the guy who melted down in an Airbnb, and his Uber got there before mine, and he just was like, okay, have a good night, and he got into his Uber without me being in one. And the point is not like,
oh, yeah.
Well, he should have gone in for the kiss, or he should have waited for my, like, no, the point is, like, you just don't leave a lady standing out on the street.
I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. I think that goes for when you're the most sober person in a group of drunk people, too.
It was, yeah, oh, definitely. But, like, I'm talking, like, my personal hetero-ass dating standards. I like a guy to wait for me to get into the car. Just out of politeness. Like, literally, like, a guy just, like, I'm supposed to respect a man that, like, just fucking takes off in a car, leaving me on the street after a date. Not because I'm like scared of the street. It's like the Griffin. That's, by the way, that's where I take my hoes, the Griffin in Los Feliz.
Oh no,
that's true. That's my first date spot. Why? Because I can smoke outside. 2, because it's cheap. 3, because if I'm really hungry, we can go to the Morrison. There's a package store next door if I want candy. All the things I like in life are right there by the Griffin. There's the Tam O'Shanter across the street. My weed store is not far. Anything you could possibly need on a first date. So, to leave me on the sidewalk outside of the Griffin after our first date, that's telling of like where things are going to go or where a person's head's at with what's normal in dating.
So when you kept going.
Yeah.
You kept dating him. Why?
Because everything else was okay. And I was like, this small, like, lack of chivalry, it didn't really become a red flag until I was like in it. And then when I was in it, and there was like a little bit at the beginning of when we were dating that he had like kind of like a vintage car and his car wasn't working. And that was he lost the key to his car, which is a total fluke, like freak accident. He was a drunk. He like literally just like left it somewhere by accident, which I wasn't going to judge because that happens.
I lost my ID at the airport.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where?
When I was in Minnesota.
So you got to go home with it? Or
no, I had to go through extra like TSA stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That's like a nightmare.
I mean, yeah, it sucks. It was expiring next month anyway. So I just renewed it, but I have to go to the DMV and get that shit sorted out. So
I have to go to I just realized my Massachusetts ID is finally going to expire soon, so I have to work on that. But yeah, like I hadn't ridden in his car, so like for like the first month of us dating, and when his car was finally working and we were about to go somewhere in it, because a lot of times like we were Ubering because we were going on a date or something, we're gonna have wine with dinner. When I realized when his car was working that he wasn't opening the door for me, I was like, oh, this all goes back to like he's never opened the car door for you. And it kind of hit me, and I'm like, wait, he didn't even wait for you to get in your Uber the first time. And like it all kind of makes sense now, like when we broke up, why he just turned into like a demon. Like, oh, I've never seen it. I literally was thinking of it last night because like one thing about that whole breakup thing was that like there wasn't a lot to process. Yeah. Because it was just so bad. Like it was so great, and then it was like turned on a fucking dime. And when someone thankfully, because of my new medication, I finally realized that I've been living an entire life of watching people turn on dimes and then like trying to fix it or trying to understand what went wrong. Whereas opposed to like with this thing, I just was like, oh, that's a crazy person behavior. Like no one fucking acts like that. Like, and if, by the way, like if he's not crazy, it still doesn't have anything to do with me. Like that's not about like, I just have never seen someone progress like that, you know? And so, I've definitely like seen guys turn over long periods of time, but never in a 5-minute situation. And so I was thinking about it last night, and I forget really why I was saying that, except to say that I've just never seen someone be so inexplicably mean. Like, just like, it's like you can't, I couldn't categorize it. I couldn't relate to it. It was just like so mean. And it was like, it's difficult to like give that energy. But I don't forget why I was saying that, except to say that like last night I was thinking about like, there was no other option there. Like, there's nothing to say to that person. There's nothing like, because I've never seen behavior like that. And thankfully it's not affecting me.
Yeah.
But typically in relationships, to speak to your point about going forward, like not only did I like miss that red flag at the beginning, and like all of a sudden I was able to collect red flags, like going back through my mind, Yeah, I think that in previous relationships, like before, now I feel like I have a new lease on life. Like I am understanding like every emotion differently. Like nothing's that big of a fucking deal. And not in a bad way. Not in like a scary like, oh, but if I take antidepressants, like I'll lose my creativity or something. No, I don't feel that way. Like I just feel like I've had the reason why everything's been a big fucking deal my whole life is because there's something off with me. And there have been relationships where something like that would happen, where someone would turn on a dime, maybe not as quickly, but turn on a quarter, and I would try and make it work anyway. And that hit hard this week when I was reading that Chris Hardwick thing. Did you read that? Mm-hmm. Ed wrote that too, and he was like, that's very similar to some experiences you've had.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, yeah. And it's interesting it's so interesting that there's all this dialogue finally happening. And the girl who wrote that piece is very brave, and I think that the world was ready to hear that about Chris Hardwick as well. I think that that's...
She doesn't explicitly name him in the piece.
No, you're right. Her boyfriend has, though, and also he acknowledged it. Chris Hardwick made a statement.
Yeah.
Basically saying that it was about him. Mm-hmm. But that he doesn't recall the events being that way. Which is hard to imagine. Something as so many situations within that being as large scale events like the pregnancy, for example. It's hard for me to imagine that he has a different memory of that entire situation than she does.
Right.
But I think that, you know, that was well received, and I think that obviously, you know, the more we found out, the more there's a lot of people that don't like him very much. And I don't know. I do sometimes think that people delight a little bit too much in this stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's like, good, you know, he fucked me over. But yeah, there's a lot going on in the news right now in terms of relationships and everything else that I've really been thinking about, because I could see a lot of myself in them, and I think that that's also made me kind of want to curb dating. One, I don't feel great about myself. Right. I gained like 12 pounds like this year, and I think 10 of them easily were in Japan. Just the food's so fucking good, and even like the food that's like kind of nasty is still so fucking good. And the candy. But I also just haven't been out. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Even just like kind of like, it's not like I was ever like a big power walker or something, but I'm not even taking like light strolls around Atwater right now, which is,
yeah,
you know, those are, it's hard. I always like laugh at myself when I try and make it a goal, because it's like, not that it's a sad goal, it's just I know I'm not going to do it. I already know how easy it is to just go walk around Atwater. I just don't do it. And so I don't know why I think like, oh, if you make it a goal, like, no, now I'm just disappointing myself because I know I'm not going to meet the goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. I'm just trying to give you the space to talk.
Well, the other thing I want to talk about...
I'm listening.
Pete Davidson and Ariana Grande. Because that is a relationship I've been in, too. Minus the $100,000 engagement ring. I have been in that fast-forward relationship.
I was going to ask you. I actually want to know this question. I have a question for you. I was thinking about this
that relationship was exactly like that.
Oh. No. This is the question I want to ask you.
No, I know.
Being a person who falls in love fast, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's disingenuous when you do?
No,
or is it real
Ill.
Every single time?
I think it's mental illness. I mean, like, here's the thing is that, like, I also haven't been, like, okay, so I wasn't in love with that last guy I was dating. I felt for him very deeply, and I cared about him a lot. And I am a monogamous person, and that, like, when something's kind of going a certain way very quickly, I'm just like, I don't want to see other people. You know? So, like, that, you know, maybe that can appear as a love feeling or something, but it's not. Or you can be really excited about someone. But I would say that, like, after that one relationship several years back, like, I pretty much figured out that, like, yeah, no, it's, like, very mentally ill. And, like, that is, I think that has, now that I feel more even, which is why I was able to recognize that that breakup was so scary that it was not something to even, like, try and, like, talk about. There's nothing to talk about
right
when it's that bad. Whereas, like, my whole life I'd be like, there's something to talk about here, let's, like, figure this out, I don't want to end on bad terms, you know, we had fun when we were together, like, let's not just become assholes to each other, right?
Yeah.
And what I will say, though, is that, like, that fast start hasn't happened. That didn't happen necessarily with that guy. We got together really quickly, but it wasn't like love feelings or like I'm gonna marry this guy or anything else. So, like, by the time we broke up, I was like in love with him, but I had love for him very much, you know, which is why I was so disappointed to see it fall apart in 3 seconds, because I, like, wanted better for him than that. Like, I was like, are you fucking insane? Like, I'm your girlfriend. Like, do you know what you were doing 3 months ago? Not having a girlfriend who had, like, you know, who has stuff going on in her life and who is a nice person. And I'm a very good girlfriend. I know that to be true of myself. So, like, yeah. But I will say that their relationship does remind me of, like, a very under-medicated, under-therapized version of myself. And these are basically, like, kids with money. That's another reason why it's on fast forward. I feel like more kids would run out and get married after a month than if they had sort of, like, the pocketbooks that they were running around with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 24-year-olds.
Yeah, they're 24. They're, you know, millionaires. Like, you know, people are doing a lot. People are doing the most with, like, oh, Pete Davidson, like, how does he afford that? Like, yeah, SNL salaries are notoriously not great, and I don't know if they get residuals from that or not. I would assume that they don't, just because that would be a bigger conversation in terms of what their worths are, but those are things that are run over and over again. Additionally, like, Pete Davidson tours colleges. Like, that's $30, $30,000 in and out, like, in a weekend. Like, he, you know, does stand up all the time. Has bit parts in movies. He had a Comedy Central special. He does advertising and stuff like that. So, like, he's okay. Like, he's doing great. I don't know why people think he's, like, some broke person. And people are also floating. I saw someone float that there's, like, because his dad was a 9/11 firefighter, that he might have some sort of pension as well, like, from his dad. Like, he might have his dad's pension or something, or, like, maybe that, you know, because, like, I know that a lot of the money that was raised went to the families of victims, and I would assume that the firefighters were, if not heavily, some of the first included in that.
Yeah.
So that there might be, you know,
yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I should know more about it, but I don't.
I mean, I think that none of that's truly transparent information anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, like, I mean, I look at them as two kids who are in the physical primes of their life. You know, they're financially doing great. They're on top of the world. They're both in sort of, like, career highlights right now. And, you know, we know at least one party in the relationship deals with borderline. And, well, obviously, like, while it's treated and medicated, there's a lot of progress that can be made with borderline. I will say that there's something incredibly manic about this relationship. that not only do I see parts of my old self in, but is very concerning to me. Like, because I think that this is how, I get it. Like, you get very, here's the thing. If he hadn't also been in a relationship probably a week prior to them getting together, it would be a different conversation. It reminds me of that narcissistic cycle that sometimes people go through. I read this week in the Emotionally Broken Cycle. It's called like the Hoover Maneuver, which is basically just like when you're on a high and you're like getting the most out of a situation that you can, great. But like when it's over, it's fucking over. And you know that I lived that. And it was very, very painful. And it's like a very typical, I guess, thing. It's like some people call it also like there's a narcissist something cycle where it's basically just like there's the period of crazy love and, worship, and a person can't help but get wrapped up in that when someone's like, I love you, and like you're the best person, and like it's only been a week, but you're probably the best person I've met and will ever meet. And then there's like obviously like a discard stage where the person's just like, okay, but like that's over now. And if I feel like we hadn't just seen him do that with someone, I would be less worried about the situation.
Yeah.
And I'm also a big believer in like, first of all, I can't stop consuming information about this relationship. I'm like obsessed with it. I check their Instagram every day. Because I just like, one, again, because I see so much of myself in it, but two, it's like kind of exciting. Like we don't see this mess anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like we don't get treated to things like this anymore. Like I wouldn't say it's like on the level of like waking up every morning to a new Mel Gibson voicemail, but like it is like kind of like that sort of, we never get that gratification from media where it's like, fuck, like there's another thing today. Oh my God. And that is for me the fun part of pop culture. So it's nice to be able to experience that again. But it's also, I don't know, man. What do you think about it?
See, I'm more of a fan of the pop culture moments like the Drake and Pusha T thing happening and like Beyonce dropping an entire album with Jay-Z.
Well, those are different categories.
I don't get excited about like the Ariana Grande and Pete Davidsons of the world.
You don't like the mess ever?
It's just I feel like it's none of my
Drake
business.
Drake and Pusha T are a mess too.
Yeah.
What do you mean? They're making it our business.
How so?
Because they're posting about it on social media every day.
But that's how people live their lives now.
Right.
Regardless if they're like famous or not.
How is that different than Drake and Pusha T? Because there's a song involved?
I guess so, yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's pretty similar.
This is the art that they're like presenting to the world.
I think that I do think that there's an element of performance to it. And like and I think that that's also might be like,
oh, so you think it's like they're presenting this thing for the attention.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that they're fine. I don't know how long this was going on between them. In my mind, it has emotional affair written all over it because I know they were both in relationships no less than 2 weeks prior to them getting together. Like some timelines between them, they were broken up. Cassie and Pete were broken up for 3 days before this started. And Cassie and Pete were very open about their relationship and very public about it. And, I'm sure you have a couple that like you love their love or like you're interested in their love, I've experienced that on a microscopic scale, and I see how invested people get in your relationship. So I think that when it's like messy like this, and there's like 4 major players like Mac Miller, Larry David's daughter, Ariana Grande, one of the biggest pop stars in the world, and Pete Davidson, who's like this fucking adorable, goofy comedian who's open about his mental illness and like issues with like substance and stuff like that. Those are some fucking amazing major players. And is it poor Shakespeare at best? Yeah. But it's like awesome. And I think that I can enjoy that and the Degrassi video and Pusha T and Drake, and also Beyonce, which, by the way, I'll say honestly, ape shit, beautiful video, loved it, loved the lyrics, didn't really love the song. And, like, I think that I'm sitting here in a Beyonce Coachella sweatshirt right now.
Molly and I have a difference of opinion.
I just want to
state that.
You could
make it clear.
You could just say it. Just say that you liked it.
I liked it. Yeah, I liked all of it. I thought it was great.
Is the beat there for you?
Yeah.
Like, see, that was what was missing.
And the
for
visuals
me.
were amazing.
But that's the video. I liked the video.
Right. I liked all of it.
Yeah.
I think I felt something. I don't know. It worked for me.
I liked the video and I liked the lyrics. The beat wasn't there for me. Yeah, I mean, that's always a fun noise in hip hop. But like, I just the beat wasn't there for me. And like, honestly, it's tough because I think more people who listen to this show know me as like a huge Beyonce stan. But like, what you
She's
also
literally
don't know,
sitting in a Beyonce sweatshirt right now.
But what you a limited edition Coachella Beyonce sweatshirt, which I didn't even go. But I got this. But I am equally a fan of Jay. Like, his old music is the soundtrack to my life, you know, like his first probably 5 albums were like everything to me. Like, even Watch the Throne was like fantastic. And then after that, he's just really like fallen off for me. And I kind of like, in relation to Beyonce, I don't care about him like that. And I don't care about Jay, and I don't care about Jay as he relates to Beyonce. And like, I would rather have new music from either or, but not, I don't need an album of the two of them. And I think I think if a lot of Beyonce fans are being honest with themselves, they would subtract the Jay-Z from that.
I've seen so many tweets that are like like memes and shit that's like me skipping the Jay-Z parts of the Beyonce and Jay-Z album.
Right. And because he's there, he has influence on everything from the production to the lyrics to the execution. And like, I think everyone likes to think that, you know, Beyonce's running the show, and she probably is. But anytime you collaborate, like, that's the collaboration, is there's two people. And for some reason, I just don't think they hold each other up in the right way in their music. I feel like they both come down a little bit.
Did you listen to the whole album?
No, I'm not getting Tidal.
I think you would need to view it in a larger context before making a decision like that.
Do they all have videos, or is it just the one video?
Just the one video for right now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed by the video. I don't think it gets more impressive than filming in the Louvre. Like, I mean
my gosh,
it's a huge fuck you to everyone. Like, it's just literally like
everyone.
Yeah,
like, you wish.
I had a moment where I was like, "Are they in the fucking Vatican?" Like, first,
that's the next one,
right? And like, at first, when I saw the series, I was like, "Wait a minute, are they in the fucking Vatican?" And I was like, "There's no way that like we wouldn't know that they spent today shooting in the Vatican." Yeah. But they did do something. I don't know if those, like, I don't know. I'm not going to the tour, I don't think. If I fall into some tickets, I will. But
cut to when it's in Los Angeles. I'm going to the concert tomorrow.
I mean, I will be excited if I do. You know what? Also, I love seeing Jay anytime I can. I mean, he is the soundtrack to my life, like, as I said, much more so than Beyonce, just because I've known him longer. But, yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. And I'm okay with someone being mad at me for saying that. I mean, I'm not saying Beyonce isn't the greatest entertainer of all time, that I haven't rabidly eaten up everything else she's done.
You have a lemon tattoo.
I have a fucking lemonade tattoo. You're right. So there's that. But, yeah, not for me, this new album. I don't know. I feel like, is there anything else we should say to our people before we kind of, I mean, do we let people know where we're at?
I think
Are you dating anyone?
I'm not dating anyone, but I'm much more open to it.
Are you on the apps?
I am on Tinder.
Nice.
But I've been, like, meeting people.
That's great.
Yeah.
Where? Like, out?
Out at, like, I've been getting more invitations to, like, go out and, like, social mixers, like, semi-professional.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I've just met people there.
Would you date someone in your field?
I think about it sometimes, because I think there's a lot less I would have to explain about, like, sharing my work with someone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, creatively.
I know exactly what you mean.
So, like, I do think about that. But, I don't know. I feel like that would be complicated.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't make things easier.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but at the same time, it does.
Like, it's such a small world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. I'm in the same boat in that, like, I've tried to date people who are in different professions, and I just feel like, I mean, I have a hard time explaining to my mom what I do, let alone some, like, new guy who works in an entirely different part of, like, the universe, you know? And I feel like, as you said, like, it's nice to not have to explain to someone, like, okay, this thing doesn't look like work, but it's work, you know? Or, like, sometimes a lot of times, like, when I'm writing or something, like, part of my assignment will be to, like, watch a ton of movies, right? That, like, have to do with that sort of thing. If you're writing, like, I read someone say once that they would see Jordan Peele, like, just, like, watching The Shining over and over again when he was writing Get Out. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad that's on the record somewhere, because then I can say, no, literally, someone saw Jordan Peele, like, watching The Shining, like, every day when he was writing Get Out. And, like, that is a part of this, is, like, if you want to know your world, you have to see the worlds before yours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to a layman, to, like, someone else who's not in this business, looks like you're just watching a fuck ton of movies. And, like, and you know, I know that so many other people see movies as, like, escapism, but, like, if anything, writing in particular has really ruined entertainment for me.
I bet. Because I can't you're just analyzing it. That's how I feel about listening to podcasts sometimes. Exactly. I'm like, oh, this music came in weird. I wouldn't have picked this.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I see what they did there. They're layering a lot of different noises. It's amazing. I can't, like, listen like a regular person listens to the podcast anymore.
Right. You just start dissecting it. And so I understand, like, what you mean, where it's like you can have this unique connection with someone.
Yeah. Like, where you, like, mention a show and you both know the name of the show and you know the exact episode and the moment that you're talking about that was like, that shit is dope. I know someone who works on that show. Oh, I know that person too.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But then the meltdown of that can be, because, like, statistically, most relationships do not work.
Yeah.
You know, you screw around with enough people.
Well, I haven't really done that yet. So
no, I know, but I'm saying one does.
Yeah.
Eventually, a small pond becomes way too small.
Becomes a fucking field of exes.
It's just you, one big fat fish. With, like, some tiny-ass goldfish underneath you. That's what it starts to feel like.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, I ate all the other fish.
You're like, oh, this party is filled with exes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't go to this conference anymore.
Yeah. There are plenty of parties I won't go to because I'm like, oh, I don't want to risk that.
Yeah.
You know? But what's nice is how many people look like shit. That's the other thing, is that I've seen some exes lately that I'm just like, you look like fucking shit. And I'm like, well, you don't look great either. Like, you looked better in your own life yourself, Miss McAleer's. So,
do you feel like you're winning, though?
Always. Always. Because, like, I know that they're not going to change, and I do. I always change. They don't. It's true. Especially, like, with men in particular. It's very rare that you see a lot of massive growth out of a straight man all of a sudden. You know what I mean? They're just not as inclined to... I really do wonder what the fuck a therapist says to a straight guy. Because I know with girls what we're doing. Do you know what I mean? We're all in there figuring out how to apologize less, figuring out how to ask for what we want, figuring out how to not have such, like, a harsh emotional reaction when this happens or when that happens. And I know that this, like, will, you know, probably, like, the hashtag equality police are out there somewhere being like, that's not true, men. But it's not, it is true. Like, men don't walk into therapy and say, like, why do I feel so bad asking for what I deserve? I don't think that that's as much of a question that they ask. And so I do wonder, what the fuck do they talk about? And if I was a therapist, would I be able to take a straight man very seriously? I feel like I'd be, if I was myself as a therapist, I feel like I'd be like, you're fine. You're going to be fine. Just try not to make the wrong decisions.
Yeah. I mean, I see where you're coming from with that, but I mean, I also know that like there's a lot that men struggle with too.
Sure. I'd just like to know what it is.
They're also sexual assault survivors?
Sure.
Or sexual molestation survivors?
Sure.
Or, you know, they've had alcoholic parents, like...
And I'm not talking about those ones.
Right, but I'm saying that, like, that a lot of those ones exist. I
know. And I'm talking about, like, you know, my exes that were not molested and are just fucking dipshits. Like, I'm saying, like, what do they talk about in therapy? And
I have no idea.
I know it's something. You know what I mean?
Maybe it's like...
I think it's a lot of victim-y shit. Like, when I picture most of the guys I know, like, let's say, like, I'll give you... Like, what does he talk about in therapy? Victimhood? Like, I literally, like, would have such a hard time. Like, you have to go to a guy at that point.
Yeah.
Because that's the only other person that's going to entertain you.
Oh, Wax is, like, going into this box.
What's in there?
I don't know.
You got toys in there?
Oh, his bed.
Oh,
he just said, oh, he likes it.
Oh, he likes it in the box?
Yeah.
What's in the box? Okay, you guys. Well, we hope this was a decent catch-up episode. I would love to hear your thoughts on our thoughts. Maybe the therapy thing in particular.
What if we had a therapist and just, like...
I know therapists.
Talk
Do you want
to
me
her about our problems?
One of my old interns is a therapist, Michelle. She's up in San Francisco. She actually listens to the show. Michelle, do you want to do, like, a call-in with us? And maybe Christina and I will go to therapy together, but then you can also tell us what guys talk about.
We have our couples therapy.
Yeah, we should do couples therapy on air. I think that would be fun. We don't have enough to, like, fight about, I don't think. Do we?
No.
So, like, I mean, that's part of a bigger conversation if we do. But,
actually, Molly, no.
I know. No, we're pretty, like, we do a good job of being aware and then also just, like, talking about it.
Yeah. Our relationship has evolved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, that was episode 168 of Plz Advise. Tune in next week for another episode of Just Me and Christina answering your questions and calls. We always need your questions and calls. 323-450-7408. I have been not so great about booking this show, but also it's summer. It's always harder to find guests during summer because of people's travel schedules. So just a heads up on that. If we will be back with more guests very soon. People aren't turning the show down, okay? A lot of people are on vacation. And also, I don't really know who to book right now. I kind of don't want randoms in my house.
No, I get it. Well, we'll come up with some ideas.
I was thinking we should rent a WeWorks.
Okay.
What if I just rented a WeWorks for all my different podcasts?
We'll talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, because
we gotta run some numbers.
Because Michelle Collins does hers in a WeWorks, and between my three, I wonder if I just had a place to go or I had to do it. It would be better. They can be expensive though.
Yeah,
but if Michelle Collins could rent one in Dumbo, then I feel like I can rent one in Glendale.
Okay.
Anyway, are you guys 323-450-7408? Give us a call. Your emails go to askplzadvise@gmail.com. We also love it when you send your voice notes there because they sound really good. Michelle, my old intern, hit us up. I want to have you on to talk about therapy with us. And if you guys are guys and you know what you talk about in therapy, why don't you tell us? Besides, we know obviously that there's plenty of sexual assault survivors and people who are dealing with childhood trauma and stuff like that. You guys, you've gone through enough. I'm not so much interested in that. I just want some plain-ass white boy who has no fucking problems in his life to call and tell me what he talks about in therapy. Christina, I love you.
I love you, Molly.
Shout out, Plz Advise Nation. I'll talk to you next week.
We love you, Plz Advise Nation.
We love you.
Appreciate
ASMR.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you.
ASMR is gross. All right, bye.